ShinRobjira.
Today we're going to be talking about the Playmates Monsterverse series, Godzilla Kong, The New Empire, Titan Evolution Godzilla. Right out the box, Titan Evolution Godzilla is going to be standing slightly over 6 inches tall. We'll handle the measurement of his new form once we get there. And yes, he looks absolutely abysmal. Truly one of the worst things I've seen in my entire life, and I love everything about it. Godzilla's entire genetic makeup here is all rubber, so the fact that it has anything sort of a semblance and resemblance to that of Godzilla is a miracle in and of itself. The fact that it holds together as well as it does, say for the titty window, is a miracle in and of itself. I do have to say though, how Rubber Goji looks is completely RNG. Sometimes he'll sit on the figure a lot better, other times he'll look like this. We need the classic bonk sound in here, right? 3, 2, 1. It's one of those instances where, yeah, it's clearly not good. But there is absolutely some charm to be had with this guy. Honestly, I think he's one of Playmates' very best gimmick-based figures right next to the Titan Tech figures. What surprises me most about this figure is just that the figure within's articulation actually does communicate rather well through his condom-like shell. Some, of course, not all. I mean, the arms will be able to move up and around pretty far before the titty window on titty windows itself. The arms can move back, down, and even out like that. Cryptic and horrifying T-posing rubber lizard. Oh. It's not just the arms either, it'll actually be the legs too. To some extent, yeah, the rubber kind of pulls back on the legs. But articulation and whatever kind of poses you can get out of a Playmates figure is absolutely possible with these legs. Even possible with the ankles too. Look at that. That's terrifying and oh god. Believe it or not, the mouth of the other figure is actually closed, and if I try to open it, the rubber figure's mouth isn't really going to be affected by the positioning of the figure on the inside's mouth. It kind of just, it's always going to be open. I say that, and then somebody's going to post a picture somewhere of this thing's mouth remaining closed. I'm sure if you just shove some of the rubber in there and then close it, no. Never mind! But if somebody does it, good for you. As I said though, the more you mess around with this thing, the more the titty window is just going to come undone. So if you plan on keeping this guy in his rubber skin, be ready to constantly shift that titty window around. And yeah, Rubber Johnny over here was never meant to look good. It was always just supposed to be a gimmick. And as a gimmick, this thing's a solid star. But in terms of me being figure talk-abouter professional ShinRobjira, I think I might need to do a hybrid rating here. Because on one hand, I think it's really, really awesome that this thing can actually pose and stay that way. But on the same hand, it's just like, I can't seriously give this a solid star for how it looks, because it looks terrible. I love it though. So I'm going to give this guy a half star, half X hybrid. Because I love it, and it's terrible, but it's also so very friggin' cool that I hope Playmates does more of these. So yeah, right there in the middle. So now, let's strip him down.
Slow down, baby.
Now, geniusly, Playmates actually put Godzilla's tail on a string in there. And as you'd expect, getting Godzilla's tail out of his rubber sarcophagi over here is actually a really big pain in the tail. So you kind of gotta just roll it out and pull. To which Godzilla Evolved will look a little bit like this. And dealing with the string really isn't that big of a deal because you're just gonna do that. There we go. And here we have Evolved Goji, which will be standing just, yeah, a little bit shorter than his rubber-suited variant. I can prove this on camera. Yes, Godzilla's rubber sarcophagi will be able to stand on his own without the figure on the inside. Plus, you could do hilarious shit like this. And he pretty much just pops right back up after that. It's genius. He's gotta shove his tits back into his ribcage. Alright. But yes, as I'm sure as you can see, Rubber Goji is definitely a lot taller than Evolved Goji, and that's probably because Rubber blah 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 blah. Let's take a look at Evolved Goji now, right? One more time. Oh! I'm an adult. Paint and detail wise, we are definitely going to see an uptick in quality. Mostly because this guy is now cheap plastic and not just cheap rubber. We're going to have the abhorrently middling eye paint application, and it's going to look absolutely haunting from the front, but not awful. The paint on Godzilla's teeth, especially on the top row, is not the greatest. It's decent. But good lord, wouldn't you know it, the crest whitening strips are back on the lower jaw. Damn. But we will get a nice pink and plump tongue on the inside of Godzilla's mouth. Oh, thank God there's that. From his neck to his underbelly, undersides of the arms, his crotch, even on the inside of his thighs and legs over here, we are going to get a fully painted underside of Godzilla. And it's going to follow all the way through to the very tip of the tail. Even if the paint on the underside of the tail is a little bit darker than over here. Speaking of which, here is the top of Godzilla's tail over Mya with the Thagomizer-ish, and yeah, this definitely differs from what we've seen on other figures. Battle Roar versus Titan Evolution Godzilla. Oh yeah. Giant Godzilla Evolved versus Titan Evolution Godzilla Evolved. Yeah, there's a bit of differences in between the bigger figures versus the 6-inch figures, it does seem, but I won't find out more about that until I get those. Coming soon, maybe, hopefully. Muddy yogurty detail with muddy yogurty red paint moving into the translucent dorsal fins up here. This is actually something I'm quite glad to see make a return from both the Battle Roar and the giant figure, as yeah, Playmates is just killing it with the translucency here. I really do love how these look. And then we're moving right back into red paint on top of Godzilla's neck and head. Neck and head, very nice. Fairly quickly, we can see Godzilla's gills, we can see some skin detailing going on here, just fine for what I think is a $10 to $15 figure. Not going to be for everybody, of course. Not speaking for everybody, of course. It's not horrendous. It's serviceable. But more importantly, it's just ridiculously fun. And I guess since I didn't touch on it too much when he was still in his rubber suit, we're going to get blue blobs for the eyes, a peach tone for his tongue, and then obviously blue sprayed on paint for his dorsal fins. I wouldn't dare compare something like this to that of a Haya or an SH Monster Arts, but I still gotta give Playmates credit. The fact that this rubber skin looks as good as it does, for the most part, and just the fact that this thing can stand when the figure is not even inside of it, extremely commendable and oh so lovable. Yeah, that hybrid of half X, half star is going to remain for this guy in terms of paint and detail, and for a sense also articulation, but if I had to give this guy an overall score, factoring in the fact that he can stand up and act as a figure without the figure inside of him, that's solid star worthy, I'm sorry. And just the fact that the rubber, so far for me, hasn't snapped or torn anywhere on this thing is also really commendable, because the first thing I thought when I saw this was that rubber ain't lasting a single transformation, and I've transformed this guy more than a few times. I've also done this more than a few times. He just jiggles. And I love it. And as for the figure inside, I mean, in terms of paint and detail, he's got the claw paint, the toe paint, the underbelly paint, the teeth paint, the eye paint, the dorsal fins. It's commendable. It's not great. It's not amazing. But again, $10 to $15 figure, I think. And you're essentially getting two figures for the price of one. And guys, honestly, I'm rating this based on prior experiences with that of Playmates. And it's definitely better than their Wave 1 releases. And to such an extent, I would say that this is better than some of the GVK releases as well, especially in terms of articulation. So, paint and detail, 2 solid stars. It's definitely better than what we've gotten prior. Now for articulation. There will be some minimal movement at the neck. I feel like it could go further to the left and right, maybe even fully swivel, but it gives me the kind of resistance that makes me think if I push this any further, it's gonna break. And I don't want this guy to break. He's my favorite so far. The tail can move up and down, side to side. It's a ball joint, so you get it. The legs can kick forward just like that, and then back. Forward just like that, and then back. Oh, here comes David Schwimmer. Fucking kill me. Gonna get some swivulars at the ankles. Plural. And probably my favorite part because it finally friggin' happened. Full swivel at the arms and a hinge out. Finally. Goji hug. And of course they can hinge right back in like that and continue to move all the way around. Oh yeah, and the mouth can open and close too, but who cares? Hinge shoulders! I'm sorry, but the hinges at the shoulders along with full rotation, solid star in terms of articulation. Playmates, we need more of that in Godzilla's arms. That is something that was severely missing in the GVK line. We need more of it following this. Not that it matters because you only make MonsterVerse toys now, and I'm kinda sad about that. And now we can take a look at size comparisons, because the rubber suit doesn't really have articulation, it's more so just ragdollish. But at least he can stand. Shimo, Booboofus, Heat Ray Goji, Battle Mecha Godzilla, Skullcrawler, Battle Axe Kong, Giant Mecha Boy, Giant Playmates Boy, Giant Bandai Boy, utter bewilderment from the movie monster series boys. Honestly, I really wasn't expecting Playmates to cook this hard. 2 figures for the price of 1. I really want this whole Titan evolution angle to take off because I want more of this. This is genius. But anyway, I have been ShinRobjira. I do so hope you all enjoyed this review. Please check out my social media, including my Patreon $1 a month, access to everything. And when next we meet, which will either be tomorrow or Wednesday, I'm getting hit with a snowstorm and I might have to shovel. I'm sorry. We will be talking about Baby Monkey, Rock, Douglas, as well as the gender fluid royalty that is Shimo. Seriously, everybody? Male or female? Who gives a shit? It's a fucking toy. It's a bundle of polygons and angulars. Who cares what he or she is? I like this design and I like this figure. And that should be all that matters. Although the idea of one monster being both male and female would make for a good plot point. Anyway, bye.
My dick fell off!